Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, come on in again. Today it's time for us to get some motivation, inspiration, some encouragement that when we know something comes in life to kick us in our teeth, that we can get up, handle the situation, and still have the best life possible. We're all going to go through something, some more than others, some lighter than others. But if you think it's never coming, man, are you drunk the wrong Kool-Aid? All right. Because I would like to think that the Kool-Aid you're drinking, if you really think nothing's coming, I don't know if I want to be involved in that one or not. I'd rather know the truth that something's happening. All right. And it's just the way it is, just the way life is. Comes and goes, ups and downs, hills and valleys, and we go from there. Today, our topic is going to be talking about losing loved ones, losing friends, and how do we overcome that? How can we get the best out of that, knowing what they went through and suffered through, and so our speaker today, our guest today is Collin Hughes. Going to come on here in a minute. But before we get started here, what a time for us to have this topic that I was talking with Collin before we got started, with the submarine that's submerged and lost going down looking at the Titanic. And these people here have been lost for at least 2 days that I know of before that. And they're hopefully they'll find them. Last briefing I saw on TV, there was like 41 hours they're speculating of oxygen left. So I'm hoping, praying for the best outcome from this. But what a topic to start with after all this. So let's go and get started. Welcome to the show, Collin Hughes.
Thank you so much for having me on. How are you today?
Hey, you're one of them guys, I tell you definitely got a radio voice.
Well, I'm a voice actor now, so
awesome. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, I just got my Southern Belle. Don't want to sound like a woman with a Southern Belle, but I got my Southern talk going on. But you got this strong radio voice.
I had 3 dreams as a child: be a cowboy, be a pilot, be an actor. I rode bulls professionally for a number of years, and I got to compete against some of the legends in the sport of professional rodeo. Have you ever heard of the movie Lane, 8 Seconds, movie about it, Lane Frost?
Yeah.
Lane was a friend of mine. He and I rode the same days at Cheyenne that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
I watched that. I watched that movie. I liked it.
Yeah. So it's,
actually, a boy that I went to high school with, he graduated a year ahead of me with my brother, and his name was, I think, Jeff Summerlin. And we always called him Cowboy. He's always dressed up, had everything. And he got into rodeoing and riding the bulls. But in our area in Tennessee, we didn't necessarily have that. So he left, I'm assuming, to Texas and became one of those riders and everything. And he's retired and moved back this way. But Jeff Summerlin. Hey, Jeff, we ever hop in? We're talking about you, Bubba. So,
yeah, it was a year after Lane died in the arena that I was on the rodeos that led up for me going to Cheyenne would be where was it? It was Kansas, somewhere in Kansas, and then a stop I'd make in Nebraska, and then on to Cheyenne. At the rodeo at Nebraska, the year after Lane's death, I got thrown off harder than I ever had my entire life. Got walked all over, and all I could think is, next hoof's coming in the middle of my back, and they're going to carry me on a hearse. My buddies had to drag me out of the arena, and I looked at them and I says, "That's it. That's the last one."
Yeah,
and the next stop was Cheyenne, a year to the week that Lane died. And after I stopped riding bulls, I announced rodeos, and that's where I found out that when I'm behind a microphone, I'm at home.
There you go.
You put me in a stadium full of people, and I'm in a microphone. I'm like, we're going to have us some fun.
There we go. Well, I try to have fun while we're on here. I know some of our topic can be a little strong, but I try to make it as easy as we can. That I guess not as serious, even though we know it's serious.
Right.
So I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you found your profession and as a voice acting. You definitely, I can tell, you into that. I remember before I got in a wheelchair, our county fair came in one time when I was probably a year or two before I got in my wheelchair, and they had the big old riding bull because that's when old Urban Cowboy was on TV,
Oh, brother.
and so yeah, so then this fairground came in with a mechanical bull. And
Yeah.
here I am trying to do that thing just because Urban Cowboy did it. So I got through it real
Oh,
fast on that thing. So, but I learned from them that that's definitely not for me. So
yeah, I,
there's a special kind of person that enjoys special kinds of pains.
yeah. If you got time, I got a quick story about,
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
so the Urban Cowboy, most of that was filmed at Gilley's
Hmm.
Honky Tonk. And during the Houston rodeo back then was in the Houston Astrodome before it's in the stadium that it's in now.
Yeah.
And I was down there for the rodeo at the Houston Astrodome, and a bunch of us thought, hey, let's go out to Gilley's.
Uh-huh.
And so I was a first year member of the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association that year. I'm just a rookie. And within the bunch of us that went out there, there were like, I think, 2 world's champions, several national finals rodeo qualifiers, some of the top bull riders in the world. And we're standing around watching these guys get on that bucking machine. And, these kids, they'd be slapping their face and acting like they're all tough cowboy, like they're going to ride a real bull for thousands of dollars or something. And we're all sitting over there just kind of laughing at them. And all I could think is, I wonder if these guys knew who were standing over here, if they'd start to feel silly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
being watched by some of the best actual bull riders in the world. And here they are, slapping their faces like they're.
Uh, yeah, it was on the show. Yeah, watching people do all that. It was wild. But old Travolta definitely got to go home with the girls
And the money.
at the end. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I mean, by that movie is one of the big things in the first of his career. So
oh yeah, yeah, because it was huge. Of course, I remember the one reason I ended up watching it was my girlfriend when she saw it one time. So, but actually, I like the movie though. So I don't want to seem like one of these guys that likes the chick flicks, but I actually like that movie. So I'm all right with it. So. All right, Colin, let's go and get started here. Now we go through. We know what life happens. Life comes when we're not ready for it. It comes when we're ready for it, and definitely part of life is living until we go. And the sad thing is that some people go before others, and saddest thing to me is some people that waste life live longer than others
yeah,
from that. That's the sad thing to me is the people that are living their life and they're just wasting it. And then you have, for instance, I had a younger brother. He passed away 12 years ago. And yeah, so here's a guy worked hard and everything, helping people, a mechanic. And then I know 2 other people in and out of jail, and we do stupid stuff. I understand that, but they still don't want to get out and work, don't want to do anything else. They want everything given to them. And I'm going, what's the purpose of them being here and my brother not here?
right,
It makes no sense to me at all. I'm sure there's a reason and rationale for it, but I yet to understand it. So,
right. So
yeah. Um, Now, to get off my 2 cents, get off my soapbox on that part, I've seen on your part that you lost oldest daughter to cancer,
yeah,
and see that one there. Even though it's cancer, I think I could deal with that one a little better than all of a sudden tragedy. They're dead and gone.
yeah,
That at least you've had time to say your goodbyes and love you and stuff like that, and you know what's coming.
yeah, yeah. It's she and I had been estranged for a while. She
Okay.
when she's first diagnosed, she reached out to me and we started, building a relationship. And which means I also got to spend time with my oldest granddaughter. And I live in Las Vegas, and at that time, I was flying for an airline, so I was able to, take advantage of those flight benefits and jump seating privileges to go down as much as I needed to while she was in the hospital. And the last couple weeks of her life, I just spent that entire 2 weeks down in Houston to be with her in the hospice. Last thing she told me was she loved me.
Yeah.
Saw her, took her last breath, and it's hard to accept. A person says, you hear so many people say that one of the most difficult things a person can face is the death of a child.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, there's something in my life that was far worse. At the beginning, I told you my 3 dreams: cowboy, pilot, actor. I bring that up because, to me, it tells that I'm a person who goes after things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I rode bulls. I'm a retired airline pilot, and now a voice actor hoping to go into film. But I go after things when I want them. But on June 10th of last year, I came across something that I had no idea how to deal with, and it still plagues me, and it probably will the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got the call that my 15-year-old granddaughter ended her own life. And
See,
that hit me.
that's a more harder situation pill to swallow, like you said, with the cancer, and I also see you lost a son-in-law in a car accident.
Yes.
But and I can speak of the suicide a little bit. I attempted suicide 3 times in 3 years. I mean, 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out. After my brother died, I felt guilty of why he died. Because at the time, I'm just trying to take all your time up here,
You're
but
fine.
he was an alcoholic, but he was a functional alcoholic. He worked all day, helped people like that and everything. And I got where I couldn't get in and out of my wheelchair and in and out of the bed like I normally do. It's getting older and heavier, fatter, and weaker, and so I need help getting in bed. Well, we got him in the hospital because we noticed he was jaundiced from his drinking, and they told him if he continued drinking, they give him 10% chance to live 5 years. And so he quit drinking until an old friend of his that couldn't drink alone got him back to going again. And a lot of us blame him for his part, but they told him as in the hospital with him being a mechanic, don't pick up anything heavy because they found a hernia and a bleeding ulcer in his
Uh-huh.
stomach, and said don't pick up anything heavy to strain yourself or anything. Well, one night I couldn't get into bed, and he helped me in bed. That same night he died, and I felt so guilty that if I would have got in bed as big as I am, he might still be here. And yeah, I attempted 3 times 3 days. So I do understand the hurt of wanting to get out. I am blessed and glad that I didn't fulfill that so I can be here, because I think part of my mission here right now is to do this podcast to get you and others to help y'all get y'all's messages out. So I think that's one reason why I wasn't taken. So that's why one reason why I started the podcast. So
Good for you.
all right, so now go. Yeah, that's the suicide thing. That's a hard pill to swallow, and I hated it that my mom and older brother had to go through it with me. But I don't hide from telling people because it's part of my life, and now I can hopefully encourage other people.
Yeah, what you said when you opened the podcast is that we all go through things. And how was it that you worded it? That things are going to happen. Don't say they won't, or something like that you were saying. And I had never even imagined anyone close to me taking their own life.
Yeah,
The only thing that, well, it wasn't even close to losing my granddaughter, but the only other person that I personally know that took their own life was an old rodeo buddy of mine back in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually at the rodeo in Denver when I got the news. The Denver National Stock Show, is in January every year, and I'm down at the rodeo secretary's office looking at the day sheets. You list the cowboys, everybody who's entered, and if I remember correctly, he was actually entered in the rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
And then the word came that he took his own life. And every time that door came open to the Coliseum, the stadium, where the contestants enter and walk down to go behind the bucket chutes, every time that door opened, I thought, Kay's going to walk down there.
Yeah.
He never did. But then after that, I never even dreamed of someone in my own family, especially not my granddaughter. She was one of the most amazing, wonderful, loving, happy people. At least I thought so that I ever knew. She always had this smile, and she just so humble and meek, and just people met her, they loved her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, there's no sense in it. I can't, it's just so hard to understand how someone like that could have done such a thing.
And see, at this point here now, we stress that if anyone's having any of those suicidal thoughts, please seek help. The world is better. You've just got to get out of this blackness, this fog, and you'll see that things can get better. And I know it's hard. Again, I can speak from the third attempt. They found me in my van sucking carbon monoxide in my garage closed, and I was in the hospital for 7 weeks. So I understand. So, but please don't get to that point where you actually attempt. Call a counselor, call a minister, call the 800 suicide hotline. Lie to them. Don't tell them your name if you want to keep it confidential, but be truthful what's going on so they can help you.
There is no longer an 800 number for
really? There's
suicide.
not?
Yes.
I
It's
didn't know
now
that.
so very, very, very simple. Call. So if you're having thoughts of suicidality, it's so simple now. Call or text 988.
Okay. I
If
didn't
you
know
want to
that.
reach out to somebody, call or text 988. And if I haven't mentioned that number is 988.
I'll
People are
definitely put that in the
spending,
show notes too.
24,
I didn't know that.
24/7. Yeah,
Okay.
24/7. People are there waiting to communicate with you.
Good. I didn't know that. Good. I'm glad I've learned something today. So done learnt me something there, Collin. So good. And that's something special to learn too. So, all right. And of course, how do you, I can tell with you, you're a very positive man. Like you said, you go after what you want and try your best to succeed, but when this daughter died with cancer, son-in-law with car accident, again the granddaughter, 15 years old. How do you deal? And let me ask this question: did she leave a letter behind
No,
to? Because I mean, like you
no.
said, when you were explaining her being so happy and joyful, the brightest person, people would love meeting her. It just makes you wondering how can she fool so many people? For no one not to suspect anything. And
Well,
wow,
well,
what was really going on?
there's a
Yeah.
backstory between my granddaughter and I
Mm-hmm.
that explains what kind of person she actually was. The daughter I lost to cancer was she came by my youthful indiscretion days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even meet her until she was 15 years old. Didn't even know she was there until she was 15.
Yeah.
So she grew up naturally. She was angry with me, in and
Oh yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
understandable. my first marriage, I had 4 daughters. And I was still not a very nice guy to their mother, unfaithful, starting to follow in the footsteps of, what I'd seen in my home,
Mm-hmm.
drinking and womanizing,
Mm-hmm.
which, of course, led to a divorce. And their mother remarried a man who was retired military. And they asked if he could adopt the girls, because that would give them insurance benefits through his retirement, whatever else, type of benefits that came through that. And, I thought, well, that's more than I could afford to pay in child support at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I agreed to it. And when I signed those papers, it was afterwards that I suddenly realized that I no longer had any rights to even talk to those children.
Yeah.
And so they grew up feeling abandoned by me. And 2004, the second oldest of these girls reached out to me and wanted to be reunited. And so got to meet her, and we carried on a relationship for a while. And then her sisters and her whole family, of course, she was caught in the middle. Anytime somebody was talking about me in the family, here she
Yeah.
was, and that was just, stressful for her.
Yeah.
And so she backed out of the relationship. And then later on, came back out and said she want to try it again. That ended in failure. And then shortly before I married my wife, now 17 years, I get another email from this daughter. And my wife is a social worker, and she says, well, you're going to answer her, aren't you? I says, no, honey, I'm not going to answer her. Well, why? She's all about the relationship. And I told her, I'd already told her what I'd been going through. And I said, well, I told
Yeah.
you what I've been through at this. It's just, I can't go through that again. So, but if you work on the relationship, it doesn't have to end. I says, it's really not in my hands. And so finally I says, okay, I will do this just to show you that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how long it had lasted, but I got to spend a lot of time with my granddaughter, who was itty bitty at the time. And my wife and I took my daughter, my granddaughter, where we were living in Owasso, Oklahoma, and they were in Omaha area. And we drove up to Omaha, picked them up, and we went to Nauvoo, Illinois, which is a big history place for Mormon pioneers, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
There's never been a Mormon church. It's always been the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. As they had a big pageant out there, and we told my little granddaughter, who's like, she's 2.5 maybe at the time, maybe a little older, says we're going to go to where there's a big musical production. Says, and she called it the Singing Park.
There you go.
And the whole time during this pageant, though, I was holding her on my lap, and she just fell asleep on me, and I held her the entire night. And I can't remember how long after that once again it came to an end. And 2017, I said, I live in Las Vegas. I was based in Houston, Texas, with my job. And my wife asked me again, says, well, if she ever reaches out to you, what are you going to do? And I says, I can't go through that again. And this time my wife says, I understand that. And next morning, I'm saying my prayers. I'm getting ready to leave for a trip later that day. And in the middle of my prayers, I just I mean, I swear it's like you're hearing my voice right now. It says, pray for your children. Children? They don't want anything to do with me. I don't have children.
Yeah.
Why should I pray for I don't have children. And it came again. Pray for your children. And I resisted, and I fought with God. I don't know how long on this. Finally said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I finally did. I have no idea what I said. That's all I know is had no idea. But so I leave the airport, Vegas airport, catch a ride down to Houston, and only flight I had of this first day of the 4-day trip was an overnight in Detroit, Michigan. Next morning, left Michigan, came back to Houston. As I'm walking up the jet bridge while the passengers are deplaning, my phone rings, and it's a number that I didn't recognize, but I answered it, and it was my daughter. And at this time, she and her husband were divorced. The children's father was living in Florida with my grandson, whom I had never met at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And my granddaughter was with her mother up in the northeast part of the United States with my granddaughter that I had not seen in several years. Their father had just been in an automobile accident and killed. My grandson was in the car with him. He was in a coma at a Fort Lauderdale hospital with his front split wide open, his internal organs exposed, several broken bones, not knowing if he was going to live or die. And her sisters weren't able to go down there to be with her. Her mother wasn't able to go down there to be with her. She says she just needed somebody there for support. So I'm on the next flight. I didn't even try to jump seat. I bought a seat to get there.
Yeah.
And the first time I walk into that hospital bed and see my grandson there, he's, we don't know if he's going to live or die. And I spent about a week with them down there that time, went back later on. But that entire time, I'd give my daughter some breaks, and I'd take my granddaughter out to eat or something like that. And every time that child opened her mouth, I always expected her to say something like, Grandpa, where have you been all these years?
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa, why haven't you called? Not once.
Yeah.
Not once did that child say anything like that. She just loved me. She just loved me. And that's the kind of person she was.
She was just happy you're there.
She just loved me.
Yeah, this is difficult on some of those ends. I don't know. Would have been harder. I mean, I don't know. What would you have said? Because I wouldn't want to blame mother or anything. Maybe what? And I'm not asking you to speculate what you have said. Why didn't you call or why didn't you? Because you don't know what you said now. But I mean, I understand how you're emotional there because she just loved you. She's just glad you're there. She's happy to be around. But man, if she did ask that, I don't know what I could say. Wow. Okay.
Well, let me tell you another thing about her that was just so amazing. My wife and I took her on a vacation with us to Hawaii, and we just had a blast. When we were there, she only asked for one thing, and that's if we could take her to a store where she could buy a swimming suit herself.
Mm-hmm.
So we went into a store. She found a swimsuit she really liked, and then she put it back. And I says, "What's wrong?" She says, "Well, it costs so much money, Grandpa." I says, "Well, do you have the money for it?" She says, "Yeah." I says, "Well, then if you want it, that's one you want. Go ahead and get it." She says, "But then I won't have money to buy food with." I says, "You don't have to worry about buying food. Grandma and I have that." "Really?"
Yeah.
I says, "Yeah." So she went up there to the counter and was pulling out her cash. And while she's pulling out her cash, Old Grandpa standing right behind her, pulling out his credit card.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And then one day we found an ad for Swim with the Dolphins.
Oh, no, that
A
would be
feature that was
amazing.
in.
That would be amazing.
Oh yeah, and I asked her if she wanted to do that. She says, "Oh, Grandpa, that would cost too much money." I says, "Well, we'll find out what it costs, but do you want to do it?" "Oh, I know that's going to cost too much money, Grandpa." I says, "Honey, if this were free, would you want to do it?" "Yes." I says,
Yeah,
"Okay, forget about the money. Grandpa's going to pay for it."
yeah.
And on my Facebook page, my banner picture up there is her, like she's hugging the dolphin. Dolphin's
Yeah.
pointed up this way, and she's right here, this big smile on her face. And something that really was special to me when I posted that on Facebook, a friend of mine, Don Gay, 8-time world champion bull rider, who's never met any of my family,
Hmm.
made a comment on it, says, "I'd know that smile anywhere."
There you go.
And I had to text him. I said, "Donnie, you don't know how much that meant to me, that comment. I just
Yeah.
you could see me and my granddaughter like
Yeah,
that."
yeah, yeah.
When
That's
we're
cool.
leaving Hawaii, here's the best part of what she was like. Walking through the airport at Hawaii, and I've got my roller bag behind me, and she has a small carry-on bag, and I had it on top of my roller bag. And she's, "Grandpa, I can carry that." Well, says, "I know. It's light. It's no big deal, honey. I got it." "Oh, let me carry it, Grandpa." And I says, "Well, if you want to, go ahead." And when I got home, my first trip back to work, I commute down to Houston. I'm walking through one of the terminals in Houston, and there's a family right ahead of me with a child, a daughter about the age of my granddaughter,
Hmm.
who is carrying a jacket and throws it at her father, says, "Here, you carry it. I'm not
Oh,
going to."
oh, wow. Yeah.
And all I could think is, "Oh, thank goodness for my sweet, sweet grandchild."
Yes, yes.
But that's who she was. That's who she
It takes
was.
all kinds to make this world go around, huh?
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard to understand how she could have possibly done this.
Yeah. I don't have any children. I've never been blessed to get married once, and so for some reason, God didn't think that I needed a wife or anything. And not to say I don't find one as I get older, but I'm sure the children's part to be over with.
Oh,
But
you never know about these
way
things.
I saw where who's those actors, 80 and 79 years old, got another one coming.
Yeah,
Those two actors.
never say never.
I just I just saw those not too long ago. I forgot to which two they were are, but
Never say never.
yeah. So, but man, yeah. It gets, so how do you? I mean, it's a tough blow for this. But again, someone like you that I mean, you're very positive and everything like that. Were you brought up to be strong and positive? Do you remember where
I
you were
I
negative
had to
and you
I had to
changed?
learn. I had to learn on my own.
Okay.
I grew up in a very negative household.
Well, you mentioned that a little earlier about
Yeah,
which stuff you had seen
yeah,
growing up. Yeah.
my father'd say stuff like, call me dummy, and what makes you think you can do that, dummy,
Yeah.
and things like that. And I had to learn confidence on my own as an adult.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, I use it as an excuse for not being as successful as I really wanted to riding bulls. Because, I rode bulls that had bucked some of the best in the business off.
Hmm.
But I never pursued it as hard as I wanted to, because, I get these times where I was getting low on money, and it'd be like, "Oh man, I got to make this ride. And if I don't, I won't win anything." And it's like, and those words come back. "What makes you think you can do this, dummy?"
Hmm.
And I learned here's a life lesson that's good to learn from. Surround yourself with positive people.
Amen, brother.
Positive people. So many of the world's champions in rodeo that I know, their traveling partners are some high caliber contestants. These cowboys know how to ride, and national finals, rodeos, and world's champion people, they travel together. They weren't, even when they started traveling to begin with, but when they first started to travel, they may not have been world champions or national finals, but they fed off each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do that. That's one lesson I did not learn in my early adulthood. And I look back on it. Lane Frost, real good example. Lane traveled Tough Hedeman, who actually was a world's champion before Lane was a world's champion. And at the time of Lane's death, it was actually, if I remember correctly, Cody Lambert wasn't a part of that group at that time. He was traveling with Ty Murray, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, it was Lane was traveling with Tough Hedeman, Jim Sharp, and Clint Bronger, all national finals bull riders, and 2 world's champions.
Yeah.
No, 3 of them were world's champions. So, and that's, surround yourself with people, and you will go so much further in life. If you surround yourself with negativity, well,
you you'll get what you
yes,
reap from that as
exactly,
well.
exactly.
Another comment I enjoy, and I can't. It's been made different variations, but I don't know the original who first said it. But the comment that stressed with other people was, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
then here's a really good example of, I think a lot of young people today, they don't know how to handle failure in their lives.
I agree.
They're told, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. But some of them, they know that they're putting in hard work, but they think that, you have to win all the time. And that's not the case. Look at Michael Jordan. He said the key to his success was his failures.
Yes.
You
This
cannot succeed unless you fail.
when they started giving everybody a participation trophy,
Oh my
that's
goodness.
when I knew it was time for me to get out of coaching. So that's not the way I was brought up, not the way I believe, and I believe the ones that uh, deserve it. Just yeah, it was time for me to go when all that started taking place. And I'm not saying if you want to, mom and dad want to give them a nice trophy, hey, thank you, you did great, we're proud of you. But when the whole league is doing it for everybody, something's not right. So, so all right, let me ask you this one last question. We'll be ready to get off here. That all this bad time, with especially with your granddaughter, was there one certain key that helped you get through that, to stay positive, to look in the future? Was there one certain thing that helped you get through this?
Well, in my
And it
tragedies,
may be more than one thing, but I'm just
in my tragic moments that I've had in my life, uh, the near death of my grandson and the death of his father, the death of my daughter to cancer, and the death of my granddaughter. Each time something miraculous happened from those. With the death of my daughter, I was reunited with another granddaughter, who I had not seen since she was an infant.
mm-hmm.
She was 12 years old at the time. And now she texts me if she's visiting her parents in down in Houston area, and she's driving back to her college. She's going to be a college graduate next year, for crying out loud.
There we go.
I get this call, "Hey, Grandpa!"
Uh,
And so that, to me, that's a miracle that happened from the death of my daughter. In the death of my son-in-law and the near death of my grandson, I got to meet my grandson, and he's in my life a lot now, and he's doing great. And I got a few more years with that granddaughter of mine. And then, of course, my daughter. We built that relationship, and it's good. It's good, and it's been going on for several years now. And then with the death of my granddaughter, it when my wife and I went back for the funeral, of course, my other daughters were there, and they all have children. In the funeral home, they'd asked people to send in pictures to help memorialize her, and my wife and I sent in several pictures, and there were hundreds of pictures that they had received. And the funeral director handpicked just some of those pictures to put in a video that played during visitation and other times. Over half of those pictures was with my wife and I in her home, Universal Studios, Hawaii, and every picture she just has these smiles. And guess what? All these other grandchildren all of a sudden know who I am.
Yeah.
And I got a call. The funeral was on a Saturday. The interment was on Sunday. And my oldest daughter reached out to me and told me that one of her children wanted to meet me. After the funeral, one of the daughters of my youngest daughter, of course, I'm just a wreck, and she walks up to me and says, "Do you need a hug?" Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And we're at the interment the next day, and my wife looks at me and says, "Honey, do you realize it's Father's Day and all 4 of your daughters are here?"
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then the son, after the graveside service, comes up to me and says, "Can I hug you?" I said, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
And then my daughter introduces me to this other grandchild, 16. She just turned 17. Looks like she's 12. She's just itty bitty thing. And first thing she says when she meets me says, "Are you a good man now?" I says, "Yes, I am." And it felt so good to look in her eyes and say, "Yes, I am." And she says, "Good." Then she hugged me. That girl is so funny. So much different than her cousin. She is.
Yeah.
She's not shy and reserved. She just all out.
There you go.
It text, so all of these tragedies, I've had miracles. So my word of advice, there's a couple things. Look for the good in the bad. No matter what it is, there is always something to help you get through. I got through these tragedies because of people who came back into my life and the love of my wife. You have to find something positive. You have to move forward, keep pushing, keep going. And I'm 66 years old now, and I think, well, you ain't got much longer to live. Well, if the Grim Reaper comes for me, if I'm 155 years old, I'm going to leave. He's going to have a dickens of a time get me, because I'm going to be kicking and screaming all the way out. Well, I've got more life to live.
That's right.
Be positive. Go for life. Go for the gusto. Do something good. And if you are in this dark place and you want help, don't go down to, especially teenagers, don't go down to a friend of yours that says, "Yeah, man, I'm thinking about killing myself." I thought about doing that too. No. Go to somebody positive. Go to if you feel uncomfortable talking to your parents, go down the street.
That's right.
Go to a church. Go to a synagogue. Go to a mosque. Go to a youth center. Go anywhere where there's somebody responsible who will tell you that you are loved. You are a worthwhile person. 988.
Yes.
Love and hope still exist in this world, no matter how much the media tells you otherwise.
It's a shame that our media today, they'll give you the 20% that's controlling the world that's so negative.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. So, Collin, oh man, you got me feeling good and everything. I'm like you. I tell people, when you're going through the tunnel and you see the light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a freight train coming, feel good about everything you've been through, learn from it, become strong from it, get ready for the next thing. And the best thing about it, there's somebody watching you how you deal with this, and they're going to learn from you, and they're going to get stronger and help out the next person in life as well.
Yeah.
So, Colin, man, I appreciate everything. Sorry you've been through so much and everything, but again, I hate to say it, life comes, and especially when we don't want it to come. But yeah, stay positive, look for the best of it, remember the best of everything that happened through the tragedy,
Yeah.
before all that. So yeah, it's a thing. Colin, hey, have you got a website, or do you any social media?
Well,
If you have a program or anything you want to put out there, go ahead and tell everybody.
I've got 3 different websites. 2 of them, are combined into one, and that's stopsuicide.life and stopteensuicide.life. And there's an essay I wrote on there about the predator that lurks in the dark, the serial killer called suicide. And there's a short video of my granddaughter after we got back from a luau. We're in our hotel room and we're playing around and having fun. There's another video on there of me within minutes of finding out about her death. I wanted to show people the pain, and I came into my sound booth and I just started
Mm-hmm.
having pain. And then there's my business website, collintalks.com, where, building up my voice acting business, for commercials or characters, all that stuff. And the one big thing that I'm working on now was putting together a presentation for public speaking engagements.
Yes. Oh, I think you should. There's a lot of suicide, especially teen suicide, especially since this COVID crap come around, and so many teenagers are isolated that they couldn't talk to their friends, couldn't open up to their friends, didn't, of course, like I said, didn't want to open up to mom and dad, and they just bottled everything up. So
Well,
yes, you definitely
here's
need to get into
here's a fact.
speaking.
Here's a little known fact. A lot of people think that COVID increased suicides. 2020 had a lower percentage of suicides in the United States than before.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I
really
didn't know
did.
that.
Yeah,
I
it was
just
below the national average.
Okay.
I, I
I saw some other study that talked about maybe not the suicide increasing, but where they've been so depressed and everything
yeah,
because not
absolutely.
being out. And usually when you get that depressed,
Yeah,
the suicidal takes.
yeah. It
So
may have
okay,
for the years after 2020. I haven't seen any statistics come out yet on 21,
okay,
22. So, but
okay.
2020 was less.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
So hopefully that will start going down even more. So, but yes, you should get into speaking. Tell this story about your granddaughter, and help other people, and definitely encourage them. 988. Find someone you can trust. Open up to. They're not going to stab you in the back. That you can trustworthy, and open up again. So that's my thing. All right, Colin. Hey, you know that people are hurting and struggling. So if you can leave us with a positive message to help them get through today, that'd be a blessing.
positive message is a repeat. Love and hope still exist in this world. There's good things in the bad, no matter how difficult it can be. Look for the positive. Find that silver lining and hold on to it with all the might and that you can muster up. Life is worth living.
Amen, brother. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you sharing with us. I got a little emotional myself. Had to remove a little tear starting. So just hearing the love that you had for all your kids, even though you were estranged, but I could tell that it was still in there. So and
Thank
that
you.
they got to learn it as well later on. But I guess the old saying they say is better late than never.
Thank you.
So from there. All right, everybody else, hey, thank you for being here. Hey, share this with someone that can use some positive message, especially on teen suicide. Again, do the 988, whether you're calling it or texting it, to get to that immediate help with suicidal tendencies. Spread that 988 to other people so they know they can get it as well. All right, I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Thank y'all for being here. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.